Hi, very good evening to you guys. How are you doing? My name is Masita. I'll be taking you through tonight's session. Uh, we are continuing with our practice for iTEP exam. A person may say, why did we choose 3 months? Why not 4? Why not 1? Why not 2? We chose 3 months because we think that if a student has done 2 diagnostic tests after 3 months, that student will have recognized his or her errors, worked on them, and by the end of the final month, the 3rd month, after doing your second diagnostic test, it won't be very difficult for you to do a B2. This is important, guys. When you're practicing, practice all skills equally. Yes, especially if you are in your practicing time, you have to practice all skills equally. Don't abandon some skills because you think you know them. No. The biggest challenge, one of the biggest challenges in iTEP is time. It is not about the questions being difficult. No, it's normally about time. And you can't be defeated by time, even though you know the correct answers to the questions. So it's really important that when you're practicing, practice all skills. Now, how do we practice? Grammar is easy. You just go to the other website. You can do any section of questions that you want. I think I shared the topics that you have to practice about. Yeah, I shared those topics with you, those grammar topics. You don't have to look at every grammar topic. No. They are just a few selected topics. Now, when you're practicing listening, that is easy. I'm going to share a link for listening to lectures today. Then when you're practicing speaking, this is what you do. You get questions. I think you have questions. I shared questions in a document with you. Just get a cell phone and a notebook. So you read the question, you write notes, and then you record yourself on your cell phone. After recording yourself, you can check. When the teacher was teaching you how to do speaking, he gave you a list of parameters that you have to look at. Answering the question, selecting a side, giving an explanation, giving an example, concluding. So after speaking on your cell phone, listen to your audio, and then you can give yourself points. Okay? Yeah. In your week, you can say, let me give each skill one day. On Monday, I practice reading. On Tuesday, I practice listening. On Wednesday, I practice speaking, and so on and so forth. So yeah, practice. Okay, so what do we have today? Today, we are going to, the objective of the session is to improve our listening skills and learn how to think like a teacher. The theme of today's class is how to think like a teacher, not like a student. Since we are all English, we are teachers, so you're gonna help me in this lesson that we have today. Nothing is going to be new. You will be in full knowledge of what I'm going to talk about. Give me a second. The theme is how to talk like a teacher. So that should be your, that should be what you write in your notebook, and make sure you're taking notes. Okay, we are going to see how to improve our listening skills in lectures. We had a class about this, but today I'm bringing another strategy. Maybe you can start incorporating it in your listening when you're doing your listening question. And it may help you. Okay, you just have to listen, understand it, and apply it. Now, we are going to derive today's class from these 4 pictures. Yeah, tell me what you see. Tell me what you see, guys.
I can see it. I think for a teacher, a Christmas
Okay.
tree, and an alien.
A teacher, a Christmas tree, and an alien. What do you think is that picture saying?
The teacher, I think, is explaining something about Christmas, maybe,
Yeah, the teacher is explaining Christmas
but
to
I
an
don't know.
alien. Yes, you have the right idea. The teacher is explaining Christmas to an alien. Do you think an alien has an idea about Christmas? Probably they don't even celebrate Christmas.
I don't think so.
Exactly, they don't even celebrate Christmas. So they have no idea. This is exactly what happens when they bring listening and the lecture. They will bring a topic you have never heard of in your life. You're listening to it for the first and last time. So that is what we are going to concentrate on. How do you explain Christmas to an alien? That is our question for today. If you are a teacher, how do you explain Christmas to an alien? An alien has no idea. Now, when these people are explaining lectures, they imagine that you have no idea about what they are talking about. You really have no idea. And it is true, you have no idea. So they are going to explain something from the start, step by step, up to the until they make sure that you have understood. Of course, they're not going to ask you whether you have understood, but from the lecture, they think you have no idea, and they are going to give you the details of whatever they are talking about. The first thing they do in the lecture is to introduce and define the topic. Okay, maybe they introduce something like the world, the earth came from Pangea. You say, what is Pangea? Then they define Pangea. Pangea was this huge piece of land where continents broke away from. Then they started drifting away as time went on and on. That is the first thing they do. They introduce and define the topic. So when you are listening, make sure you are paying attention to the introduction and the topic being defined. That is very important. Now, after introducing and defining the topic, I think as teachers, we do this. That is the first thing we do, yes? Even if you are in an advanced class, even if you are in a class of young students, what you do first is to introduce and define the topic. Now, don't worry if you don't understand the terms they are using. That's okay. That's okay. The reason why the lecture is very long is because they are giving you time to digest, to understand, to grasp whatever they are passing on to you. Now, why should students pay attention to the introduction? That is a question to you guys. Should students pay attention to the introduction? Of course. Why should students pay attention to the introduction, guys? When you're teaching your students, why should they pay attention to the introduction? Yeah, talk to me.
Because the introduction contains the main ideas about all the lecture.
Exactly. Exactly. The introduction contains the main ideas, the most important information about the topic. So they should pay attention to understand that most important information. So when you're listening to the lecture, make sure you understand the most important information. It's in the introduction. We continue. Another question. What is important information? What is important information? You said students should pay attention to the most important information. What is important information?
The important information is the main idea to connect with the topic and enhance with the next with characteristics that is in the topic. Yeah.
Exactly. We have the main idea, the topic. Then below, we are going to have subtopics. So the student has to pay attention to that. Now, that's what we call important information. The topic and the subtopics. Okay? That is the important information. Now, why should they pay attention? They should pay attention because after you introducing the topic that Christmas, you're going to define Christmas, then you go into the details of Christmas. Now, that is where students should pay attention. That is because even if you are preparing an exam about Christmas, you will not just ask, what is Christmas? Exam finished. No, you will go down and you ask, why do we celebrate Christmas? When do we celebrate Christmas? Where is Christmas celebrated? So those details are what we call important information. And we can also call them subtopics. So when in the lecture, when they introduce the topic, they are going to follow it with subtopics. Okay? Like in a movie, there is the main plot. Then we have other characters around the main plot having their subplots. But all those plots are leading to the main plot. So that is important information. We continue. Another question. What is a subtopic? When you're explaining something to your students, guys, what is a subtopic? What is a subtopic, guys?
Secondary ideas.
Secondary ideas, okay. Related to
the main topic.
Yeah, secondary ideas related to the main topic. Correct. Those are main ideas or important topics under the main topic or the topic of the day. That is what we call a subtopic. In the lecture, that is where our attention should be. They're going to introduce the main topic, then other smaller details below that topic. We continue. Another question. Why do you, as a teacher, break down the things into subtopics? Why don't you teach them at the same time? Why do you break down into simpler details?
That's in order to have students scaffold
Okay.
about the topic. They need to understand part by part.
Exactly. Yeah. To make it easy for them to understand the difficult stuff. Because if you bring it at the same time, they cannot understand it. So the best way is to bring bits and pieces, because you're explaining an elephant. How do you explain it? Piece by piece. So these pieces are what we call subtopics. After bringing a subtopic, you explain something about it. Then you introduce another subtopic. That is what they do in the lectures. They bring the topic, subtopic, then details below the subtopic. Okay, we continue. Now, that is an illustration of how topics and subtopics are broken down. You can do it in your notebook when you are summarizing the information. You can also do something like a box, or in any way you can write. You can see that in the middle. A moment. You can see that in the middle we have the main topic here. Yes. And then we have these subtopics. Yes. Now, when you are listening to the lecture, your responsibility is to write details below these subtopics, because that is where the questions are going to come from. The details below the subtopics. You may be asking, how do I know that this is a subtopic? I'm going to answer that shortly. So that is how you're supposed to design your notes. You can write in linear, you can write the main idea in the middle, then you start breaking off in any way that you want. There is no problem with that. Just know we want details below the subtopics. Is that clear, Miriam?
Yeah.
Okay.
The difficult is to catch what are the
What they are
subtopics.
saying. Okay, okay,
Yes.
don't worry. Let's see. You can also use that format, the main topic, subtopics, then details below the subtopic, because in the lecture, in the listening, normally the questions come from here. This is where the questions come from, yeah. So that's where you have to pay attention when you are writing notes. The topic will be very easy, even if sometimes they can ask you, what is the lecture mainly about? That one is easy. Yes. Then they won't ask you this. No. They will jump from here to here. So your responsibility is to pay attention and write those details below the subtopic. Okay, so we continue. Now, how do you know that a subtopic is being talked about? Okay, yeah, how do you know as a listener, you're listening to the audio, how do you know that they're talking about a subtopic? It's easy. Number one, they use phrases like, so let's take a closer look at blah, 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 blah. Then they are going to break down the subtopic into details. Or sometimes they can say, now they are introducing another subtopic. Or they can also say, another important factor, that is another subtopic. Okay, so you have to pay attention to those transitions. We call them transitions. Yes, the most important thing, you write that down. Don't make a mistake of writing every detail, every single detail. First of all, you can't, and secondly, you shouldn't. What you have to pay attention to are the subtopic and that some information below the subtopic. That is what we should pay attention to. And that is how you think like a teacher. Okay, so when you're listening to the lecture, listen to the main topic, the subtopic, and the details below the subtopic. How do you know that they're explaining a subtopic? Listen to transitional words. Secondly, you listen